tell you word in your action line when you're going to put coding in the action box of an object. And the three that we use almost always are create, bump, and activate. And you see that page tells you exactly what those triggers do. You'll find that most triggers we usually use are create, and that's because create just executes any commands that are listed after it as soon as that object is visible, and that's what create means. And bump means if an avatar bumps into that object, then it will cause the commands after the bump trigger to happen. Usually it's a move command to move a door or something along that line. And activate is, all the commands work the same, except that you have to click on the object to make it start. So in all of our coding we're going to do, it's going to be one of those three words first. It's always going to be first in your code. It's either going to be create, bump, or activate. We can mix and match them though too. If you go down a little bit, there's some examples. A quick one for sign, just create sign, meaning, the sign meaning show all the sign text as soon as it's visible, make it red, and make the text black. That's what 0 means. Create is the trigger and sign is the command. And then you can also add more than one command after a trigger. Let's say you want your sign to be white and the text black, but you want the rest of the sign to be color orange. You put a comma after your create sign stuff. Then the next command is color, and you make it orange. So you can put two different commands. You can put sign, you can put color. You just have to put a comma after the end of the first command line, and then add your line. You can mix triggers too. We can make a sign. You can put a semicolon after the sign code and make it activate picture and click it, and it'll show a picture of a dog or whatever. Now, we can do this with so many different commands and these three triggers. This is just a simple example about how we are going to put our commands into our objects. Does anybody have any quick questions about that? So we're going to get started on doing some coding. I'm going to try to go through as fast as possible, but I don't want to miss anybody's questions. So if I don't hear any questions, I'm going to go on. I think the first thing we're going to talk about is the teleport command. Teleport command. You can put the coordinates to a teleport that you save into an object. And I'm just going to real quickly make a panel, which would be the easiest way to do this. And it's going to be a BP01. So I'm going to share my screen so you see what I'm going to type here real quick. So I have a panel here. Let me get rid of this. There we go. I have a panel. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to put my code in. This is going to be, we're going to use bump. So the trigger on this is going to be bump. I'm going to say bump, and then teleport, because we're going to teleport someone somewhere. Bump, teleport. And then after that, all I have to put in are the coordinates to something. I'm going to do just something nearby. Let's see, 3D art class. Now what you want to do is you have to have a saved teleport to be able to put this code in, of course. So you find where you want to teleport somebody. Click on teleport, and you see all this stuff in here under coordinates. It's all blue and already highlighted. So I'm going to copy all that. Just click cancel to get out. And now I'm just going to paste that in there. Okay. Now that's all the stuff that goes into a teleport. If it goes to a different world, we're in medieval right now, and our bump is in medieval. But if I wanted to bump somebody to the coordinates of another world, then I would type that world name in here because it has to leave this world. Now, if I walk into this panel, I'm going to bump it, boink. I just sent myself to the teleport, which is right next to it, actually, not that far. So let's have you guys give that a try. Go to your lots and just copy one of your PP panels from one of your walls on your lots here. Don't delete anything. We want to do cumulative work here, and it'll be minimal. So we're only going to just work on single objects and that sort of thing. So make yourself a PP. And you know what would be the easiest thing to do? You can just right-click on mine and just highlight and copy all that and put it in your own. I'm going to stop sharing now. Sorry about that. So make yourself a PP panel, PP01, and then put this data, highlight and copy it, and paste it in your action box of your panel.
Scott, if on that panel those coordinates were in another world, could you type in on your panel what that would look like? Like, let's just say that was an earwax.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'm going to do that right now here. So let's say that your coordinates were in another world, and I'm just going to add a world name in front of my coordinates here. We'll just make it earwax. So if you just type in the name of another world, make sure it's a name of another world that you can get into. Then type that in front of those coordinates, then bump into it and see where you end up. Hopefully you'll end up in that other world somewhere, but you'll have to teleport back.
Yep. I'm just outside the Spanish build. I'm right close to Amori's build, actually. What she's been...
Excuse me?
Yes?
Eckhart, how do you check what your coordinates are right now? So
Well,
I can copy
the only way you can do it for teleporting is you'll have to save the spot where you're standing as a teleport save. And then once it's saved in your teleports, then you go over and you right click on it, click
Oh yeah, I remember that.
right click teleport, and then copy all that coordinate stuff in there and paste that after your teleport command.
Because right at the bottom of my little rainbow dropper, there's the bump teleport. And when you drop down, you'll get teleport right up to again.
Okay. So has everybody had a chance to make your teleport work, whether it's here in this world?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And if nobody answers, then we're going to go on. So I'm going to...
I do.
Isabella? Okay. Well, you can't get in here right now to do it, so I guess everybody else has.
Wait, excuse me?
Yes?
I found a way to delete your cache outside of 3DO.
Well, I guess you could if you can find your HCOS folder and then the one in there that says cache. You can try, but...
I may do that with Isabella's computer
yeah.
while you guys are working on this. Go ahead, Scott.
We're also going to talk about warp. Warp is very similar to teleport, but it only works in the world where your bump is. Warps will not take you to another world. So if you've got an example on your panel right now with a world name in it, take that out and just leave the normal numbers in there. So now we're going to change the word teleport in your panel to warp. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to delete out teleport and then type in warp. So now it'll say bump warp and then the coordinates after it. So give that a try on your panel and see where it takes you. Make sure you take the world. Oh, I'm not screen sharing. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. So try that, change teleport to warp on your panel, and then walk into your panel and see what it does. You'll see that it's a lot different than teleporting, but you are going to the same place. They invented warp specifically for back in the old days before we had movers and cool looking vehicles and stuff. We used it to make rides. You would bump into a bump panel with a warp on it and it would take you to wherever place, or it would take you to another bump panel that it would push you through, and when you would bump that panel, then you could change direction and it could take you all around. But all it was your avatar floating through the air whenever you moved. So even though back then it was new and cool, nowadays we don't usually use warp to make rides. We'll make rides with movers now, which is a lot more fun. But warp is good, still has its uses. Sometimes I use warp if I have to make a doorway in a wall where I can't make a hole in the wall. You know, I'm forced to have to pass through like a solid, sometimes like with spheres. Some of our sphere pieces that you put together to make domes don't have any doorways in them. So the best way to go through them is to make a doorway in front and then put a panel with the warp on it just a few meters ahead, and it pushes them. When somebody walks through the door, then they push through that solid wall without having to hold shift. And we still use warp that way. So that's how you move other people's avatars around using teleport and warp. Okay, I think our next two are going to be the solid command and the visible command. So go back to your panel. Panel is going to be our universal object today. Go back to your panel. Just go ahead and just take everything out of action. And we're going to make our panel non-solid. So you walk up to it and you'll pass right through without even having to hold shift. So we're going to start out with the normal create. That's the first word, the trigger we're going to use. It's going to be create solid. And then you can either type the word off, OFF, or I always use no, which works the same. You can say create solid no, just three little words. Create solid no. You put that in the action box of your panel. Now walk up to your panel, don't hold shift, and you'll still walk right through it. And that's good for, I use create solid no a lot when I'm making dense foliage on the ground, like in a woods or a park. And then that way people don't get stuck in the foliage. They just pass right through it like they would normally do in the real world. You would just walk right. So instead of the word solid, make it create, or no, let's use a different trigger because it's easier to do it this way. Type in, I'll type it in the chat here. I'll type in activate, because the activate trigger is for clicking. So activate visible no. So that's what you type into your PP panel. Now just click it. Just do a normal left click and it disappears. Because you activated the visible no or visible off. And that's got some sneaky uses too.
It'll act like it'll be like an invisible wall so you can keep people out of your property.
Yeah, visible wall. And since it does not say solid no anymore, it just says visible no. it's still solid, so they can't get through. Now, if this happens and you come across something that's invisible using the visible command, if you want to see it, just right-click a nearby object and then it pops up. Then you can right-click on it, either do your changes or just know that it's there. I'm trying to think what was the next one we did here. We did warp, solid, visible. Oh, okay. Now we're going to do the halo guy. We're going to teach you how to animate avatar objects. So just go ahead and right-click your cube and then right-click your panel that's invisible and just go ahead and take out the action in it. And then change the name of the model from PP01 and make it Halo. Then you can just close the box. Oh, there he is. Oh, okay. You can just delete your invisible panel if you want. Oh, you deleted. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. Cool. So avatar objects, they're not like a normal object. They're actually made of pieces. And that's how they move. When you move, or when we make them move with this command we're going to use called seq, it makes the different parts move the way they're supposed to move to make it look like overall motion, like walking or sitting or flying. So we're gonna make your halo guy sit down. So we're going to use the activate trigger again, because we're going to click on him and then he's going to sit down. So we're going to use, oops, I was typing it. Type it. We're going to type activate seq, and then I'm going to type qsit menu. Okay, just 3 words. Activate, which is the trigger we're going to do to click, and then seq is short for sequence, and that just means the file we're using, which is a sequence that makes it move. And then the sequence name. And we have a whole list of sequence names that we can use on our avatar objects in the object yard. We've got, we have the whole list in the object yard, but then we have a demo in the avatar yard. But anyway, there's a place to get at them. So anyway, once you type that in, activate seq qsit mail, just click on it and he'll sit down. He's doing what that seq file does. It makes him sit. So it moved all his little piece parts around, so it rearranged them until he looks like he's sitting. And that's what that seq command does. And there's different ways to use it and that sort of thing. So now we're going to talk about the name command. Just 2 more commands. The name command. Why don't you make a copy? Just duplicate your halo guy. Just make a duplicate of him and just move him 2 or 3 clicks to the side. And change the name halo to sign 1. We want to put a sign next to the guy. So the duplicate changed halo to sign 1 up at the top. Yeah. Now in the action box of the sign, you've got most of what you need in here. We're just going to add a name. So after qsit mail and a space, type in name and an equal sign, and then the word Ed. Let's just call him Ed. So leave in the sign, leave in activate seq qsit mail, and then just type in space name equals Ed.
That's a creative name.
Yeah. Well, the shorter the better, because it uses up more and more building space the more characters you type. So it just needs to say activate seq qsit mail and and then name Ed. Okay, now right-click on Ed himself and take out what's in the action box there. You don't want activate seek in there. What you want to type in fresh in Ed is create name, and then we're going to call him Ed. Activate seek. Oh, Hugh, there's
no
I.
I.
Yeah, I just saw that. You saw that too, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay, now clicking there. Now that seems simple, but that is really cool because you can make objects like signs or invisible bump panels to make other things around it do stuff. And you don't have to type all that extra code into all those extra objects. They just have to have a name in them. You just have to say create name, whatever, on, let's say you want to make, all the furniture disappear when somebody walks into a room. Just name them all the same name. Bump panel say, bump visible, whatever the name is, off, and then they all go off. So having the ability to click, make one object control other objects is what really we get into on the animations and stuff in here in coding. And do you have any questions about what we talked about?
Nothing of what we talked about, but I do have a question on homework.
I would take what you learned here and go into your logo slot and practice it. Because because if you're not doing it, you'll
forget it. You definitely will forget it.
I write everything down as well, so just in case I do forget things, then I can always go back and look at them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, we always make sure that you guys have a logo slot so you can spend your time, finding out all this new stuff is going to give you all kinds of great ideas. And we don't really want you to expand on that on your lesson lot. This is just your lab table right now. Do all your fun work on your lot. And that way you've got a whole lot more room and you can really make a nice big construction if you want to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that is class.
I have to say, this is one of the most fun class that I have taken.
Okay.
All of the other ones are just not as fun as this one.
Well, this one you don't really have to look at documents and send in answers to questions and stuff because everything is graphics. So that's why we have to take screenshots of your lot every week so we can prove that you've done your lesson.
And you're fun too.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
So next week it's going to be much of the same. We're going to just be doing coding. We put little examples around your lots and try them out throughout the week on your logo slots.